Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of the NACDA and Affiliates virtual programming lineup. I'm Dana Leroy, Communications Manager for NACDA, and we are glad to have you with us for this sponsored content session with StayBillety. StayBillety is an international online home sharing platform serving groups and organizations and their communities. The company was founded in May of 2015 and officially launched in March of 2016 by CEO Barbara Jones, who is here with us today. Barbara is a believer in community who recognized the need for and benefits of providing reasonably priced accommodation for visitors to local events and activities. Joining Barbara for today's session is Chris Smith, CEO of Athlete Network. Athlete Network is an engagement platform for current and alumni athletes. The goal of Athlete Network is to keep athletes competing by uniting them in an ecosystem built by athletes for athletes through connections, resources, mentoring, and careers. In this session titled Connect Beyond COVID, New Ways to Increase Engagement and Generate Revenue, our speakers will showcase how groups and organizations, particularly alumni athletes, can leverage technology to engage their communities and build fundraising initiatives during this time. Before we officially begin, a quick reminder for our live attendees to utilize the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window and send in your questions throughout the presentation, as we will have a lot of time at the end to answer them. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Barbara to begin the discussion.
Well, thank you very much, Dana, for the introduction, and it's a delight to be here with you today. Just a little more background, and Chris will provide some background on himself as well. I am, as Dana said, the founder and CEO of StayBillety. We like to say shared interest, shared roof. My background includes many years in media. I'm also a professor of practice at Syracuse University and have been doing a lot of interactive stuff for many years, including launching weather.com's international business, and also worked on travelchannel.com some time ago. And as I said, a lot of interactive experience in the media space, understanding travel space, and a deep believer in connecting community. So I'll allow Chris to get us started and introduce himself as well.
Good morning, everyone. I am Chris Smith. I'm the CEO of Athlete Network. Barbara, thank you very much for inviting me to be on this webinar as well. A little bit about Athlete Network. We provide the software and platform for you to build your own athlete network and engage your current and former athletes. It's a tremendous opportunity to build support and increase your fundraising. And we love working with great tools like StayBillety that provides you an awesome way to provide value to your alumni. So excited about the webinar today. I think to get things kicked off, we'll go ahead and launch a poll. It will help Barbara and I make sure we're staying on point with the conversation. So if you could quickly answer the poll, we'll jump right in. Awesome. Well, very relevant to today's discussion, as we can all see, fundraising and donations. No doubt COVID has brought a challenge upon all of us in this area. So really, I guess we're encouraged to see that, but not for the reasons that caused it. But with that being said, Barbara, let's jump on in.
All right, so quick agenda. We've done our introductions already. I'm going to introduce you to some high-level information around what's happening with consumers, some of what the pundits' projections are, what home sharing looks like, and what the opportunity is for your organizations through home sharing as an engagement tool. Segueing into a little bit more detail on engagement platforms. Chris will share his segmentation information. He's definitely an expert on ways to plug your communities in using engagement platforms. We'll identify a bit of the opportunity that we believe is existing and know exists for you in using some of our platforms, and then we'll throw it back to Dana, and she's going to moderate our Q&A. We do have a hashtag if you are tweeter and are interested in making some noise during the session, and we're calling it Engage Fundraise. That might be one of them. Connect, engage could also be another one. So just kind of those keywords for today. So a little bit more about StayBillety. As I mentioned earlier, we are a home sharing platform as service. We live in that space, and we provide the platform to you, the home sharing platform, and you provide it to your communities. As I said, shared interest, shared roof, and we like to say staying alike. So big picture here, consumer spending, what the folks at IBIS World, among others, are saying is that we are expecting a rebound in consumer spending. And that is really good news for anyone in the fundraising space, and certainly in the engagement space as well. Syracuse University is one of our partners, and today they're kicking off Boost the Queues. So if there's any alum out there, don't forget to get on that site today and help boost the queues, or anytime for that matter. Consumer spending really does mirror the expectation of what's going to be happening in the travel space. And we talk about domestic trips by US residents. Again, the source is IBIS World. And there really is a pent-up demand. And I'm sure many of you are feeling that as well, a little bit anxious to get moving again. And this information certainly does reflect that need and what the whole of the travel market and the travel industry is anticipating will occur once we get into 21 and beyond. So a little more about home sharing. It might not be something that you're reading the headlines on every day, but in fact, it has been doing pretty well during this COVID period. People are looking for those staycation, those getaway opportunities, which in the home sharing space, the short-term rental space, we can help fulfill that. And the market is anticipated, the US market, maybe less internationally, but the US market will rebound similarly to what consumer spending and overall travel looks like. It definitely has been bouncing back this past summer. So let's just connect that concept, the concept of home sharing, to your alumni community. Certainly on the athletic side and overall alumni as well. There, according to MRI and other sources, 30 million adults in the US who have used by-owner rental services in the last month. So that could be a pull-out sofa in somebody's home, more of the couch surfing type of model, through to a whole home type of short-term rental, where the people that are engaging or renting that space are basically handed the keys and are having more of a staycation, vacation type of experience. These folks index 169 at being college alumni. They're 69% more likely than everyone 18 plus to be using home sharing. So I really like this quote. It's from The Economist. And essentially, it's the heartbeat of what StayBillety represents. And that is, we are all about tribes, connecting people who share interests. And the economy being what it is, safety, trust, those are really important things. And I'm sure you see that with the engagement work you're doing with your communities as well. What about trust? What about connections is most important? So what StayBillety does is really solve a problem. We are new and relevant, especially more leaning towards some of your alumni groups that might be a little bit younger, that 25 to 49 age group, very much in the core of what home sharing represents. We provide an opportunity through home sharing to gauge community and also generate revenue for your organizations. We do that through donations and most importantly through commissions through each of the stays that occur on the site. And here's how that happens. We set you up, we work together with you and set you up on the platform. You get the word out using your existing channels. Social media channels and certainly Athlete Network could be one of those channels, or should be one of those channels as well, to spread the word about the service that you're providing to your community. People engage, they connect, they use the site, they are very likely meeting people that are part of their community, staying with people. Maybe you've never considered home sharing before, but would you welcome a member of your alumni community into your home to make a little extra money with that spare room, but also support your community and strengthen that community. So we do that connect, and then the affiliate commission comes as a percentage of each one of those bookings. So we like to say that we've got some cred. Our design work, just to give you a sense of what the product looks like, we create landing pages that are unique to your community. They're relevant. The language that we use on the landing pages is engaging and it makes sense to your community. For example, Ryerson University in Toronto, they're all about the Ramily. So we wanted to make sure that the language of that landing page really reflected what they represent. Our listing pages, for example, the Syracuse one, we work with you on designing the language that's in the page where people would actually be looking at listings, and we can modify that in a way that makes the most sense for your community. So StayBillety, you may be thinking, okay, so home sharing, that makes sense around my campus. I could see benefiting from that for big games. I could see benefiting from that at commencement and other times, but we're also about travel anytime. So if somebody is using your affiliate code, if let's say they're going to New York for a business trip, they use your affiliate code when they book. Even if they're not staying with someone that's part of your community, you're still benefiting. You'll still get a percentage of that transaction. So you can connect your community around the world using the platform and really engage in a new and relevant way. There's a lot of benefits, which I'd be delighted to tell you about one-on-one another time. So here's a little bit of language from our affiliates and our users. Certainly, we bleed orange, and so do our pals at Syracuse. The quotes from the host, yep, they definitely feel more connected. And that particular host was someone who is in the Syracuse community that lives near the university, but isn't directly connected, feels a lot more connected by hosting people that are part of the StayBillety community. And then for the guests, really that element of trust is a very important one. And certainly with the economic situation that we're facing right now, people will be more interested in finding new ways to save money and also make a little money, and your organization can benefit from that. So a little bit into the weeds here, but I wanted to kind of walk you through what a booking might look like, or the opportunity for your organization. The platform can actually pay for itself if you're generating revenue through it. In this scenario, we've got several different tiers of affiliate membership, and that essentially reflects the service level that we provide. In this scenario, a guest books 4 nights with one of our hosts. The total, just to keep the math simple, represents $400 booking. The affiliate in the gold model receives $22 affiliate commission, but we also ping that host and say, hey, would you be interested in donating back a percentage, or some or if not all of what you just earned as a host, back to your group or organization. So we can plug into your fundraising models. We can remind that host that they're part of the community, and here's a way for them to easily engage. And certainly, again, in these tough times, if somebody's opening up their home, that's a way that they can give back that doesn't necessarily require them writing a check specifically during tough times. So this is just a kind of snapshot. Cornell is not an affiliate yet. Hopefully they will be, but just to give you a sense of what that lost opportunity might represent. And you think about your own geographic area alone, there's probably a lot of home sharing already going on, and that revenue isn't coming back to your bottom line. So just a quick snapshot of what went on in Ithaca with Ithaca College and Cornell in 1 or 2 weekend period. And again, Cornell wasn't able to receive any of that revenue directly. So we're all about facing forward. We know these are tough times. It's an unusual time to be in the accommodation space, but we are platform as service, so we're here to serve you. We have a few things going on right now that I believe would be of interest to you. our packages, for our affiliate packages, we're making them as budget friendly as possible. We recognize the budget cycles in your space, and the timing and the difficulty of getting something new on as a line item in there. So we're providing the first year free. And we want to make sure that we can roll these things out in a meaningful way. So we're also offering up the opportunity to do a segmentation study with you. You know, if you want to try us out by talking to your community to see if this is something that's of interest to them, we'll work with you as we move forward with you. And then finally, we've tweaked our commission structures to help put a little bit more money in your pocket as quickly as possible. So speaking of segmentation, I'm going to hand it over to Chris now, who'll tell you a lot more about what he's learned with his experiences with Athlete Network around engagement and just connecting people.
Great job, Barbara. And, you know, I'm a former collegiate football player, and every year about 4 of my teammates and I go back to campus to catch a game. And when I was introduced to Barbara and StayBillety, it just instantly made sense because we're renting house VBRO anyways. So why not rent it where part of that fee will go back to the athletic department? I really think your alumni athletes that you know come back will be really interested in the product. But how do we let them know about it? There's no doubt fundraising is on everybody's mind right now, and we're all forced to look for new and creative ways to fundraise. At Athlete Network for the last 2 years, with our new software, we've really been talking about capturing your alumni athletes. If you think about it, there's not a segmentation that should be more willing to support your athletic department than those who wore the jersey. And the challenge for all of you in athletics is this has been very decentralized and fragmented. Coaches have their own Excel spreadsheets. You got your alumni association on campus. And what the data overwhelmingly tells us is that you have to activate engagement for it to do anything. Otherwise, it's just a buzzword. And that's really what I'm here to talk about today is the key to market segmentation. You can't treat a donor that's a former athlete or activate a former athlete to become a donor with the same messaging that you would as your boosters and others who support your program. You've got to create a community. Barbara hit on the power of community before, but really until our software, it's been really challenging to do that. So what we do is we allow you and provide you the technology to build your own athlete network and segment your communication to your alumni athletes. And you know, the next slide is a quote from one of our partners. Penn State does a lot of work with us, Kurt Deal. And this quote seems so simple, but it used to be so hard to execute on. An engaged alumni athlete is a happy alumni athlete, and a happy alumni athlete is a giving alumni athlete. Okay, that's very intuitive to all of us, right? How do you truly engage an athlete, an alumni? What are the things they want to be engaged with? Well, the first thing is you have to be able to have data available to you. Data should be at the heart of all of your fundraising engagement strategy with the way technology is available to you today. And in a minute, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can create your own market value for alumni. But you really need to create a roadmap and a plan. You know, until recently, most of us as former players get invited to an annual golf tournament. And I'm not recommending you don't do those. And that'd be a great way to plug StayBillety in when you bring everyone back for your golf tournaments and homecomings. But it's got to be more, it's got to be deeper than that. That's not activating engagement. That's hitting someone up once a year to come back and donate some money and get together. So how do you engage athletes? Let's go to the next slide, and I'll give a couple examples here. Engagement has to be affinity based. You know, a lot of you are using Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are fine. Never would recommend stop using those. But those are also very fragmented. 22% of people are on Twitter, 30% on LinkedIn, and it's not cohesive. You don't know what the engagement is. What do your former athletes want to hear from you? Well, one of the best things we're seeing right now is coaches' corners. What that means is all your coaches have a smartphone today. Even your coaches who have been on campus forever have a smartphone. Take a 2-minute video that is just for former players talking about the state of athletics. As former players, we're so worried about what's happening in athletics because we know the budgets have been cut, revenue has been lost. So simple communication every other week from a coach, updating the players on the vision of their programs, the state of the program, and it's got to be affinity based. They got to speak to them as former players. A lot of you are probably sitting on here going, well, how are we ever going to get coaches to do this? They're yearning for it. We have a lot of partners, and when they see videos of other coaches talking to former players, the competitive streak kicks in and they get excited. Not all of them will adopt communicating with your former players, but a lot of them will. Also, sending out state of the unions from athletic leadership on the kind of no BS state of athletics. I am proud to have been a former college athlete. I do not want to see my athletic department or programs be cut. And we see it happening too often and too late, where you can create that groundswell and get people invested to support it, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's got to be consistent communication. So there's a lot of ways that really don't cost anything. Find a handful of alumni varied from your female to male sports that are doing big things and spotlight them. Write a quick article, use your GAs or go to your comms department on campus and get those kids to interview them. What happens is we all have egos. You spotlight an alumni, they're going to push it and share it with everybody. There really is a lot of ways to engage your former athletes. Just the simple fact of having a place to connect back with the athletic department. Since I played football a long time ago, there's been 6 ADs at my school now. And you lose touch with the staff over time. When I bring my family back, they now in our network have a place where I can tell them I'm coming. Last time I have a daughter, they had a volleyball poster for her and a little volleyball for my son. They had a little football. These are things that are laying around, but it sure made me feel good as a dad. And that's part of activating engagement. It's all a sequence. So if we go to our next slide here, the roadmap seems complicated, but it can be broken down into 4 essential segments. Creating awareness. A lot of athletic departments have lost complete touch with the majority of their former athletes. There's so many tools and activation techniques that we can share with you on how to reach back out to them. Once you create that awareness and you get interest in your platform, you have to consistently engage them. Here's the fact, folks. Digital engagement's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's just, are you going to adapt now or are you going to adapt 2 years from now? It's going to continue to be here. It's what people want. So you have an engagement plan once you start to capture your community. And that engagement plan, when you sit back and think about it, it seems so overwhelming. But when you kind of lay out a roadmap and strategy, it really only takes a couple hours a week to execute. And then the giving will start to happen. 52% of engaged athletes that are part of our school's platforms start to give. Now, how do we bring this full circle? And this is one thing we're really proud of at Athlete Network because we work with so many schools now. In fact, today we're just announcing a brand new partnership with the University of Indiana Athletic Department. That'll be our 5th or 4th Big Ten school. We work with Purdue, Maryland. Is you can create an athlete market value. If we can go to that next slide. And this is what gets everybody excited is for the first time, we'll be happy to set up a call with you. There's no obligation and help you and your staff create the athlete market value of the alumni demographic. Because you're going to need buy-in. Your ADs will get excited when they see this. Your coaches will get excited. And what we're looking at on the screen here is data comprised from our Power 5 schools. Now, we found that mid-majors, it's about a 30 or 20% reduction. D2, it's about a 50% reduction, but still really big numbers. And what you're looking at in this case for Power Fives on average, they have 9,000 living alumni athletes. So what we've learned through data is that if you even capture 10% of them in a community, annually, that can be almost $2 million in fundraising back to your university, because the somewhat engaged is going to be about 30%, 31%. The meaningful engaged is going to be at 19 to 20%. So what does that mean? Well, when you have a platform and you're offering services, somewhat engaged is about 2 to 3 interactions a month. Meaningful engaged is 6 to 7. A tool like StayBillety is an engagement. You promote StayBillety to them, they see it, they click on it, they see value in what you're providing them. That counts as an engagement that month. They're reading a coach's corner, that counts as another engagement. They're connecting with former athletes, that's another engagement. What we're able to do and provide you is the ability to create a roadmap and put some context about the value of what this market can be. And it's not just a fundraising, it's goodwill. It's the right thing to do to support your former athletes. You know, a lot of our schools have mental health content on there right now. There's no doubt these are challenging times, and just bringing them back into a support community is really, really important. It will help with recruiting. It will help with morale within the athletic department. And then when you get them all to come back to campus, they're booking through StayBillety, they're driving revenue to you, everybody's happy. You're going to see your fundraising. Last month, I did a webinar with Andy Hurley from Syracuse's development athletic department. They had a former player gift $2.5 million, contributing the concept of our platform has one of the main reasons. We have multiple schools who have had significant gifts and aggregate gifts of millions of dollars. So we would love for you to use us. Even if you don't, just put a plan together, create that consistent engagement, put context behind it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep talking about this. I would bet almost everyone on this call has had a conversation about engaging their alumni athletes at some point. Now you can engage them, you cultivate that pathway, and it leads to significant fundraising. So really excited about that opportunity to talk with you all about it, help you create your own athlete alumni market value, and show you how we can take platforms like StayBillety and activate them to your alumni athletes.
Thanks, Chris. Dana, I think you've got the keys to the questions.
All right. Well, thank you both for your time today. First of all, I think we heard a lot of really great things. So I'd just like to encourage our attendees to send in your questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. We'll get started with a few that we have here right now. Barbara, this one's primarily for you. Can you expand a little bit? What kind of lifting do your affiliates have to do to get up and running on the StayBillety platform?
Sure. So I'm sure that you've set up your content on other sites in the past. So the toolkit that we work with you is basically we work with your communications people to determine what that initial language will be on the listing page. We work with you on handing over assets so that, you know, you've got our logos, we've got your logos. So very, very straightforward stuff. We've got a real simple checklist. We work with you depending on what level of affiliation you're coming in at. We will work with you on public relations to get the word out at launch. Certainly using tools like Athlete Network are critical to that, to make that noise at launch. We'll spend some time getting to know your local community to see what's going on in the short-term rental space already in your community. And then certainly the survey is a great tool to get a sense of who's using the service or similar services globally, with working with very likely your university's overall alumni association. So we kind of spend some time really understanding what you do really well now, what you would like to do better, to Chris's point about having a plan. And then we activate it to make as much noise at the right time as possible to get people using the site.
So who are we looking at, in these partnerships, the individuals from your team, and then who do you typically work with on the athletic department side? Are typically the fundraisers? Do you work with the marketing folks? How does that, who's sitting at that table for you?
Yeah, so we would, as I mentioned, we kind of figure out who the stakeholders are, understand your existing communications processes. It could be somebody on the sponsorship side. It could be somebody, or will be somebody on the communication side for sure. It could be the primary stakeholder for tools like Chris and other social media messaging that you do. Depending on the university, the agreement might land with the comptroller, or it could live within the athletics department. It's not a huge group, but certainly having a plan, if you've got facilities where you want to be having on-site communications, so marketing materials and stuff, we might have some employer and engage your graduate students that are doing marketing on campus for you. So really it is roll up our sleeves and plan the work and then work the plan.
So that kind of touches on that one graph that you showed had the different lines for the gold, silver, and bronze affiliate levels.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just kind of go back to that and touch on the differences between, I guess it's the service levels you mentioned, but what are the primary differences between the levels?
Okay, thanks for the question. So with the levels, really we're a platform as service, but we're also a marketing communications company in the sense that we will provide you with the toolkit. So if you're using a platform like Chris's, we'd work with you and we'd provide a lot of content that could be pushed out so that we are able to kind of give you a start on the journey with a toolkit and the different levels of affiliation, the greater the toolkit, but more importantly, the greater the service level in the sense of how do we provide that landing page? Do we create something that's white label specifically for your university that might just have a little powered by StayBillety in the corner, similar to what you might be doing with Sidearm? And Jeff Rubin is one of our advisors. I'll just do a little name drop in there. So that would be a very different level if it's super customized versus what I have shown you as screen grabs in here. But the most important part of the different service levels for the fundraising side of it is that the commissions are higher at different levels.
So we have a question about payment plans, those folks who are interested in the cost. And you did mention the first year is free. So what does that offer entail?
Well, with the first year being free, we are working with you, kind of have a little bit of a plan to have those conversations between now and the middle of November. And we don't need to roll that out in this year. That could be something that we come to the table, determine our agreement, and maybe it makes sense to roll it out next July. So that first year, we can trigger that at a time that makes the most sense for you. We're not forcing any kind of a start date, but we'd really like to have the conversation with you in the next month.
So shifting gears just a little bit, Chris, this is probably more of a question for you. It was interesting that you mentioned, your alma mater has had 6 athletic directors since the time that you played there. What kind of advice do you have for our individuals who are on the line today for kind of re-engaging those former student athletes that either got disconnected along the way or maybe didn't have a great experience while they were there, but could still potentially be interested in giving back where they are right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we're finding is even if you have some former athletes who had a challenging experience, especially as they start to get older, they're still very proud that they were able to be a collegiate athlete at any level, from NAIA up to Division I. So few are able to accomplish that. And we got to play into that ego. So what happens is a lot of former athletes. We surveyed over 1,000 of them, and over 80% of them want more communication from athletic departments. Is you just got to start somewhere. And some really cool things we're seeing, especially with your older alumni athletes, we're seeing schools reissue letters to their female athletes. A lot of female athletes weren't treated the best until Title IX started getting better, and creating that, hey, look, we want to celebrate you. It doesn't cost a lot to reissue letters. With the diversity and inclusion and social justice, a lot of your African American athletes, this is a great chance to reach out to them and share what your athletic department is doing. There's something that will touch on the general pockets, and you just need to start reaching out and doing it. Every school is gonna have that small segment that's gonna be really negative. You can't let those people bother you because they're everywhere. The majority, once you start communicating with them, are going to re-engage, and you just got to start doing it. But there's a lot of really good ideas out there. Those are just two that I shared with you on how to start that process.
Other than email communication and videos from coaches directly to student athletes, do you have any other unique ideas to engage with these former athletes, especially remotely, as we continue to forge through this pandemic?
Yeah, it's really interesting because with homecomings being canceled, Hall of Fames, some people are trying to do those virtual, some aren't. What we're finding and learning now that a lot of schools are bringing back football and they'll be on TV, launching like a pre-tailgate for your segments of athletes via Zoom right before the kickoff of the game. We're seeing trivia nights by sport where you can get all your former volleyball players do trivia night on the history of volleyball and then the history of your school's volleyball program. Anything that gets a segment of athletes. What we've seen hasn't worked is if you try to do it with everybody, it just gets too noisy. You've got to pocket it. And then having town halls. We've had a handful of athletic directors who have invited their former athletes back to town hall to ask questions. You need to have a community built, but one of the most in-demand features from athletes, former athletes, is they want a mentoring program. They want to be able to help those whose shoes they were once in. With our platform, we have a built-in mentoring program that's tech-enabled. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of coaches try to do this, and it usually doesn't work out, and it just upsets the mentor because it seems like a waste of time. So if you're going to do mentoring, make sure it's organized and have a plan, or it could backfire. And then lastly, believe it or not, even with LinkedIn and other tools, athletes find it very hard to connect with each other. You can't provide that information if they call you. So creating a roster where they can reach out to each other and connect. We see almost 60% of former athletes engaging in a roster connection feature. That's also part of our software package.
And we're hearing that too with the some of the overall alumni associations that we've been speaking with. They're getting creative with homecoming and such, again, at a macro level across the schools. And really, one of the key things, to Chris's point, is that the alumni are looking for ways to connect with your students. They're looking for ways to contribute. And we're really seeing that all these technologies, similar to the one we're using today, similar to Chris's, are a way for those connections to take place in a meaningful way. So we're all in a place where we can, we're sitting at home on a Tuesday night and let's see what we can do to give back. And the other benefit of using these type of tools, engagement tools, is the fact that what we're doing today, this is being recorded. So engaging using all of these technologies is something that that can be time shifted.
Yeah, that's a great point. And even we're seeing some schools even let their former athletes host webinars promoting their business. One of them has a pretty well-known artist with paintings, and he did a little sample painting and then promoted it for former athletes to purchase. So there's so many things to do. I think with Zoom being very affordable, the key to these tools is people have to know about them, and that's really where your plan, or else it just kind of becomes white noise. But don't be shy. You know, there's that old Chinese proverb: the best time to plant a shade tree, it was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. Activate your staff. Just keep trying things, and you'll find those engagement pieces that work.
So we talked a lot about, Division I with Syracuse and at the Big Ten level too. Can we dive maybe just a little bit deeper? A lot of these things, can certainly be transferred to the smaller school level, but how you see this platform working at the smaller divisions as well?
Well, thank you for the question. Again, it's a question of sitting down and putting together a plan that makes the most sense for your community, your existing alumni organization, and how you're communicating with your athletics group. And we'll set some goals accordingly. So people travel. They could be traveling for, family travel. They could be traveling for business, and we can plug into the StayBillety infrastructure to help you benefit from those transactions, even if they're not directly related to a school event. So I think key there is for us to really have a good conversation about what your needs are, and let's make sure we roll this out in a way that's most relevant to your community to ensure success.
Yeah, and on our side, an alumni athlete, a Division II, III NAIA athlete is just as proud. And a lot of them stay more regional because they weren't recruited from as far away. So we work with Northwest Missouri State, Pitt State, and a lot of Division III schools. We just partnered with Southeastern, one of our first NAIA schools in Florida. The numbers are a little smaller of the living alumni, but the concepts are the same. They want to be engaged. They want to come back to events and use tools like StayBillety to help support the athletic department. So the challenge is the staffs are smaller, and that's where technology is kind of evening the playing field. We work with LSU, Clemson, and Penn State. Pitt State's a Division II school and gets to provide the same exact technology to their current and former athletes. And that's the beautiful thing about technology. It does even the playing field.
That's great. I think, your points this morning, just like you said about the technology, we're all trying to stay connected in any way we can. And these tools that you're talking about are allowing us to do that. So very appreciative of both of your time this morning. If we have any last minute questions from our attendees, I'd encourage you to get those in through the Q&A button. But other than that, Barbara and Chris, are there any, last minute statements that you want to leave our attendees with today?
I basically stay safe, folks. And if we can find a way to help you connect with your communities, we'd be delighted to do so. And then certainly up that engagement with tools like StayBillety and Athlete Network. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I echo that. And, this has been challenging, especially for our industry and athletics. And stay positive. Know we're all in it together. I know there's a lot of anxiety right now. There's a lot of furloughs, but pretty much everyone's coming together. One thing I love about the athletic community is the collaboration. We meet with partners, all our partners, once a month. Everybody's sharing best practices and ideas. So just keep trying to move forward. We will get back to a non-COVID world at some point, and having StayBillety and tools like Athlete Network lined up and ready to go is key. So we would love to talk to you and share more. Thank you for the time, Barbara. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to NACDA for offering this platform to engage with all of you.
Thank you again to our speakers and to all of our attendees on the line today. We appreciate your time and your support of NACDA and our affiliate associations. And we hope to see you online again very soon.